All right, so instead of going to look at our graph, we can also jump right into our prediction equation and finding that. So to do that, because we're also going to be doing our correlation coefficient at the same time, we're going to need to turn on a setting in our calculator to allow that to happen. So on your calculator, from the screen, we actually want to go to our mode. So if we press mode, it's right by the second key. We can change a bunch of our settings in our calculator. So most of these we don't ever want to mess with. If you're in trig, you're going to go from radian to degree a lot, so you need to know where that feature is. If you get into upper level math, you might also need to switch to polar coordinates, but most of this we're just not going to mess with right now. So what we need, I'm going to try and zoom in here so that you can see it a little bit better. We need to turn on the stat diagnostics. So that's this one right here, stat diagnostics. So we're going to just arrow down until that's highlighted, and then we want to arrow over and press enter to select the on. So once that's turned on, then we should be able to access that correlation coefficient. So to get out of the screen and go back to our home screen, we're going to quit out of it. So if you notice on your calculator how we have quit up here in blue, so to get to it we use our second key because it's blue, and then we press mode. So second mode, and that'll bring you back to the home screen. All right, so I'm going to arrow back out so we can see the full calculator. All right, so now that we have that turned on, we should be able to write our equation pretty easily. So we're going to click stat, and then we're going to arrow over so that calc is highlighted, and then we're going to choose our regression equation. So as we get further in this semester, we're going to go back to this screen and do some of these other regressions, but for right now, we're only ever going to select the linear regression. So that's going to be our fourth option. So we're just going to arrow down until 4 is highlighted, and then we're going to press enter. Now we need to see the L1, L2 in our list here. So if they're not there, then you would have to do that. And on your calculator, so again I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit, they're right here on the bottom. So if you need to select it, again you would do your second key and then the 1 key to select L1, and then the second key or the L2 key to select that. But as long as you don't delete them from that spot, these should always be there. So now what we're going to do, once we see the screen, is that we're just going to keep pressing enter until we get to a bunch of numbers. So enter, 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 one more time. All right, so this screen is the screen that we want. So this gives us a ton of information. I'm going to zoom in so we can see it a little bit better. So looking at this screen, I think it's, adjust my papers here. So when we look at this screen, this is giving us the general formula for our equation, and then the next set of lines are going to be what we want to substitute in for those numbers. And then the r squared and r, that gives us our correlation coefficient. So, but let's start with our line of regression, so that equation. So I'm going to go back and get my paper here. So I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit. So I'm going to answer my very first question, so question part A. So where it's asking for the line of regression. So we are just going to substitute our numbers A and B into that general formula that it gives us. And we're always going to round to 3 decimal places when we do this. So our equation is going to be y equals, and then our A is this 0.114, or 144, excuse me. So 0.144, and then we have the x with it. And then our B is negative, so that means that we're going to be subtracting. And again, we're going to round to 3 decimal places. So 211. Oops. So if that happens, we'll just recalculate real quick. Okay, so 0.432. So that's our prediction equation. Now, since we have it on our screen, the correlation coefficient, that's the R. So that's what we care about. And again, we're going to round to 3 decimal places. So R equals, and then we're just rounding this, 3 decimal places always. So 0.991. So since this is really, really close to 1, this means that we have a very strong correlation. And because it's close to positive 1, it's going to be a strong positive correlation. And again, if you look at the previous video to see the graph of it, you also will notice that in the picture.